Hi, True Crime Grapevine fans. This is me, Patti Lee. This is the 29th episode of the True Crime Grapevine. Welcome. If you're new here, I'm Patti Lee. I'm your dyslexic detective who basically is listening. I keep my ear to the interwebs all week long, looking for what everybody is talking about, and like any good grapevine, I will then let you know. So if you don't have time to listen to all the true crime channels and sort of dig through the journalists and other, like actually look at documents that come up to see, is this true or not? Trust me, I will give you a little heads up as to what everybody's talking about, main facts you should know, what's hot, what's not, and where they all are in the true crime timeline. So the true crime timeline, friends, is, like new crime investigation, and then we have the hook 'em and book 'em, which is when we've got a suspect and they're arrested. Then it starts into, the court. And that's a really long road to justice, if I may give an homage to Gigi on Pretty Lies and Alibis. It is really long. Sometimes it goes quiet then, sometimes we hear more. The closer it gets to actual trial, we get more motions and hearings. And then we have the actual trial portion, and then there's sentencing and post-sentencing motions, which actually can also take a long time. So that's sort of the true crime timeline that we fit all our cases in each week. So this episode, it's more than a little week. This covers everything that the interweb true crime sleuths have been talking about from September 15th through today, September 24th. So I will it might be the 25th. It's Saturday today, whatever September. It might be the 25th now. I know there's a Hurricane Ian coming to all my friends in Florida. Stay safe. So that's where we are in the overall timeline. Our investigative phases, really quick. The intro, I'm just going to let you know, today we'll be talking about 3 new cases, 2 of which have arrests, and 1 which seems to have a very strong suspect. We have the case of Debbie Collier from Athens, Georgia. We have a really unfortunate, horrible case of 2 teens murdered by what seems to be allegedly another team. Debbie Collier was in South Carolina, and this case, I believe, is also in the South. I think it's in South Carolina, North Carolina. We'll talk about that. And we have the case of, it looked like a missing couple, but it turned out not to be. The couple is Terry Chermak and Todd. His name's Todd. They call him Todd, excuse me, but his name really is William Lloyd Cagle. And I think that was these can't all be from South Cackalack. And then we're going to do some updates. So we have an investigative update, a case that we're still not sure if it's a crime or not. But boy, if you're into true crime, you will know that the case of Kiely Rodni, she was a 16-year-old girl found. She was found in a reservoir. She was missing for almost 3 weeks, almost a month, before they found her car. And it was there's some oddities, and it's such a horrific case. It really bothers people, and it seems like there must be something going on, but maybe there's not. It could just be one of those horrible, unfortunate things. But we will talk about what everybody's talking about with the Kiely Rodni case. We have the Eliza Fletcher. There's just an update. It's really more of an update on the suspect in her case, and there's been a lot of discussion on the interwebs about political and policing differences that maybe we need to look into that could have averted the Eliza Fletcher case. And that was out of Memphis, Tennessee. And then we have a little update about Gannon Stouck's alleged murder, his stepmother, Letitia. Wait till you hear about this one. And then we have an update, another sort of interesting lady mom who wasn't too momish, in the Vallow Daybell case. We have an update there. The trial is going to be in January, and we've got some sort of depressing news about that. The Pike County Massacre. So this is actually in trial, active trial, and we will discuss what's been presented thus far and where that's going to go and how long we expect that to take. And then Sherry Papini was sentenced. She was sort of a real-life Gone Girl. And we have a celebrity case to sort of update you on. If you're interested, it's a Real Housewife of Beverly Hills, Erica Jane Giraldi. But it does have some interesting, potential precedent-setting things. And we'll talk about the difference between morality and illegality, as Emily D. Baker would say. Important distinction. All right, so that is our episode 29th intro. If you're a return subscriber, welcome back. Go ahead, if you could, subscribe. It's free, I know, shocker. And hit the like button if you like what's going on. If you want to hit the notification bell, you'll be notified when I upload. It is usually within, give or take, a week. Sometimes 10 days, but I'll keep you updated from whatever I missed up to whenever I tape, so you won't miss a thing. If you're interested in true crime and you don't have all the time, you can trust me, Patti Lee. All right. Now, as of September, I said we were going to, I used to pair a wine with every case. And I'm not a huge drinker, so I was getting a little too toasted, and it wasn't good mixing all that stuff. Shocker, right? So I'm going with a monthly theme. We are still in September. So I'm doing a green apple crisp, Seagram's Escapes Spiked. It's probably what? It's probably a malt liquor. So, I don't know. It's 8% alcohol. If you're interested. Uh-oh. I don't even have nails, but I still have a hard time popping these cans. I guess I'm going to have to use something to help me. This is thrilling. Oh my Lord. I know what I'm going to use. Okay. See, this is the thing. When people go to commit crimes, you go to do a show and there's all kinds of things that happen that you don't expect. I am shocked that anybody thinks they can actually commit the perfect crime when everything goes wrong, and then you have to start deciding, are you going to bail? Are you going to continue? Can you make a change? Let's see if I can get this underneath here and use it as a lever without popping. Ooh, I don't know if you could hear that, but there we go. All right. If you liked my intro music, that was an original score by my brother-in-law. Cheers to him. It's called Stew. I don't know, like the stew that is. Ooh, look at that. That is green apple. We know that this is probably full of artificial flavoring. Ooh. All right. I'm gonna put this right here. Yeah, that looks. Oh, do you like it, folks? Let me tell you what it tastes like. Ooh. Yeah, it tastes crisp green apple. Yeah. Okay. Refreshing. And I've got it in my my honky-tonk sort of hillbilly wine glass. My mason jar. Yeah, I'm going to take another sip. I'm going to take a second drink. It has been that kind of a week, folks. All right, so let's get into our first case. Debbie Collier. Debbie Collier went missing. She was reported missing late. So there's two conflicting things. Either her husband and she went to bed Saturday and he got up and left early Sunday, or it was they went to bed on Friday and he woke up early and left on Saturday. September 10th was when she was reported missing. She had a rented vehicle. She's 59 years old, just a little bit older than myself. She has a 36-year-old daughter, and it's not really clear in the reporting. Does the daughter live with her? It seems like the daughter does not. Like, it seems like she has a live-in boyfriend, but she has lived with her parents. There's been some issues that we'll find out about. But as of September 10th, she's reported missing. And by September 11th, they find her. So here's how they found her. So she was not at home where her husband expected when he came back from wherever he went. I think he went to work, so he must work on Saturdays, or after he left the house early. So right away everybody's like, oh, the husband left and she went missing. But apparently they, like many older people, have two separate bedrooms because he snores really badly. They've been married 12 years. They don't have a history, as far as we know, of any problems. So, yes, he got up, he left. Now, she had a rented Pacifica, and it was gone, and they couldn't find her, and she didn't come home, and so her husband reported her missing, and the police were able to track through the Sirius XM. So we'll talk about in another case about, there's all kinds of things your car is tracking. It's not just your phone that can track things. In this case, we don't know where her phone is. We don't think she was found with it, and I'll tell you why that's a little strange. But what we do know, so her husband says she never comes home on Saturday. He reports her missing. The police track her Pacifica rented vehicle through its XM radio signal it could ping, and they find it 60 miles away. So they're from Athens, Georgia, and they find it 60 miles away in this like wooded area, this highway. So she's 60 miles from home. They find the vehicle. Then it is unclear how her daughter found out so quickly that they found the vehicle, but somehow she is on scene pretty quickly. After they find the vehicle, I don't know if somebody then called the family, but, oh, you're going to kill me. How they knew she was who reported her missing was her daughter, because her daughter, what time was it? At 11 o'clock, like a.m. in the afternoon. Hold on a second. Screwed the pooch on this one. I'm sorry, at 3:17 on the day she went missing, her daughter got a Venmo from her for $2,385, and the Venmo was able to have a message with it, and it said, "They aren't going to let me go. I love you. There's a key to the house under the blue flower pot." Okay. So it was her daughter who said, like, she knew that was wrong. What is going on? Where's her mom? And she reported her missing because that was a very weird Venmo to get. Something saying, they're not going to let me go. So apparently she went to the house, they're like, what does this mean? That's how the police were contacted. So the daughter got this weird Venmo. Okay, so they find the car the next day. They do find her. She is away from the car. She is unclothed. She is partially burned. She is hanging, one hand is like holding on to a small tree in this ravine. It is horrific. So no clothes, partially burned. The police find a burn pit and this blue tarp that's sort of burned. I, for the life of me, cannot, and maybe because I'm not trying very hard, but I'm trying to figure out what the scenario was with a blue tarp. She doesn't have clothes on. She was burned like on her abdomen and part of her leg. I don't know. It's like weird. And was she did she get away from them? Did they think she was knocked out? They were burning her. She got up and ran, and then they finished the job. Okay, unclear. So, because when they first found the vehicle, I believe the vehicle it didn't look like anybody, like they couldn't, if you would have just seen that vehicle there, you wouldn't have known. It didn't look like disruption. It didn't have her stuff in it. It's a rental, right? It looked pretty clean. So, like, was she forced to drive there? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, we don't know. So, that's the crime. A woman it starts out that everybody knows she's missing because she sends this text to her daughter, Venmoing her a very high and odd specific number. Now, apparently, her daughter said that she left the house and all she had with her was her debit card and her driver's license. Okay. Again, so at the time, there's confusion in the reporting. Like, so wait a minute, did the daughter, she lived with them? Because apparently she had a history of some use of substances, and I think she did live with her parents, but and I don't know how. So Annie Elise was she has a channel called 10 to Life, and she's very passionate true crime. I don't know how she was able to see or if someone gave her, she could see Venmo transactions, and the mother had been giving the daughter Venmo transactions, but they only had like a heart with it. It wasn't like a big conversation. She didn't put these memos in here. So Annie Elise made the connection of, okay, so if the daughter didn't live there, how did she know what was missing? Like, how did she not know? Like, if her mom was missing, right? And she got that Venmo transaction, went, oh my God, what the heck is going on? And she did get into the house. How would she know what her mom took for sure? Like, how would she not think somebody stole it? Or, I don't know, it's a little strange. And the other stuff that starts coming out. So, right now, the police have gone to the daughter's house, and the daughter lives with this. He hasn't fought for 2 years, but maybe because of COVID. But he was MMA, is that right, fighter? Like not boxing, but what is? I know I should have looked that up, but you know it's that type of cage fighting, I believe. And he had been ranked, but he hadn't done it in 2 years, obviously because of COVID. But I think other people have started back again. He obviously wasn't doing that. His name, and they live together, but they don't have a great relationship because apparently they've had there's records of them having domestic violence. His name, an MMF, there's their dyslexia. Her name's Amanda, and their phones were taken. Both of them have been questioned, and their phones were taken. They do have a domestic violence past. I did not write down her boyfriend's name, but I think we're going to learn it. So the one thing that was reported was that the neighbors said that the night before she went missing, there was screaming and yelling, but there seemed to be, they lived in sort of a remote area, and they weren't super, they didn't like go to neighborhood things. They didn't interact a lot with their neighbors, Debbie and her husband, Steve. They said a young woman would come visit sometimes on the evenings, on the weekends, and there would be a lot of fighting. We think that is the daughter, Amanda. Now, it's reported, but it was reported by the Law and Crime reported it, but they cited the New York Post. Now, the New York Post it's a known, like, it's like what we think of, unfortunately, in my opinion, allegedly the National Enquirer. Like, it's gossipy. It's not. It doesn't always get it right. It always puts things in the most dramatic sense. So they said that it was reported that the boyfriend of Amanda, this MMF fighter, he had left a note once at the parents' house saying, like, if you try to, like, get in my way again, I'm going to hurt you. Like, he was violent, apparently, with Amanda, because there are records that they had domestic violence, her against him as well. Like, it was very crazy, very not healthy relationship, in my opinion. But it seems like, I don't know if the parents were trying to help her and that he intervened and they would break up. It sounds like they would get together and break up. And they had just recently moved back in together. And they had been in Maryland, and he moved back, and they lived together in the Georgia, in the Athens area near her parents. So what Annie Elise pointed out, and I think is accurate, is if you Venmo somebody, you have to use your phone. I mean, she used it through her phone before. So to Venmo from, like, a burner phone or from a captor's phone or something, she'd still need her phone to get, like, you know how they send you the, if you have to get back into your account, they send you a code. So how would she have done that without her phone? And there's no mention of her phone. So we know that at 3 o'clock the 3 o'clock during the day during which she disappeared, she sent that message to her daughter. So just sounds, and they've got me. They're not going to let me go. Was she saying, like, was the daughter involved? Was her drug problem big enough that the mom somehow was meeting the drug, like, was trying to settle her, doesn't make any sense, trying to settle her daughter's debt, and so she sent the money to her daughter. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And if she had her debit card and her driver's license, what does a debit card and a driver's license allow you to do besides take out money, maybe from, different, when you go shopping, you have to maybe show who you are before you want to take out cash of a certain amount? I don't know. How did the daughter know that was all she had missing? It all seems to point to something about her daughter and the boyfriend more than the dad, so far, as far as I know. And that's just my opinion. Just as all allegedly, this is for your edutainment. I am not trying to, everybody's proven innocent until they're found guilty by, if they're in a court by their peers. But this case is just a little insane. So we've got a troubled daughter. She's got a boyfriend who seems violent. They just moved back to town. The mom disappears. She conveniently Venmos her daughter over $2,000, and then it's like, oh, and by the way, was that all she had in that account? We don't know that number. Obviously, the police will know what that signifies, but saying they won't let me go, but there's a key under the flower pot. Wouldn't her daughter know where the key was? She'd been back in town, and she had stayed there in the past. It all looks weird, right? Kind of looks like maybe it was a setup. I don't know. Although the daughter was very distraught. She came to the scene and was hysterical. Again, I don't know who called her to the scene, or did she know where to go? See, this is all really weird. And of course, we don't have all the information. It could be a simple explanation, but right now it seems I'm gonna go. Annie Elise is not too dramatic this time. I'm gonna go with her and say that I think the daughter looks like she might have something to do with it, or the daughter's boyfriend, or it could be the husband, or it could have been a complete stranger. We don't know. What do you think? So go ahead. If you want to tell me who you think so far might have done it, do you think, like, 1 for the daughter, 2 for the boyfriend, with or without the daughter. 3 for it's the husband, because we always know it's the spouse, right? And 4 for like a stranger. Put that in the comments below. And you know, if you want to if you like what you see, subscribe. All right. So that was our first case. We have another new case. Let's just, everybody, take a sip of whatever you have with you. If you don't really like the taste of alcohol and you have a sweet tooth, I am telling you, crisp green ass, that would not be a drink people would buy. Crisp green ass. That is my dyslexia. Sorry. Crisp green apple. Boy. Hello. It's the dyslexia and not the drinking, because I've only had 3 sips. Okay. And it is really, like, got that little sour green apple taste. All right. Our second case for episode 29, which covers crime that everybody's been talking about in the interwebs between September 14th, 15th through now, September 25th. If that is Saturday. Okay, I could look on my phone, couldn't I, folks? Oh, it's September 24th. It's been a week. I don't know about you guys. I'm still going to blame Mercury being in retrograde, because that's supposed to affect communications. Maybe that's the problem? Couldn't just be, I don't know. It just seems like it's a little weird this week. All right. This is the case of Terry Chermak, and I don't know if I'm saying that right, and Todd. His name, they call him Todd, but he is Todd Cagle, but his real name is William Lloyd. Okay, so both so they were both reported missing. They are from Greenville. So the other one was Georgia. This is nearby in Greenville, South Carolina, Lawrence County. They are not husband and wife, but they are fiancés. They live together. They were reported missing by her family. They reported them missing on September 9th and 10th were a bad day for crime. They were reported missing by her family as being last seen on September 9th. And let's see, sorry. His full name is William Lloyd Cagle. Okay, so they're both missing. They were seen in town a little bit before that, but somebody said, you know, September 9th was when I believe she was last spoken with by a friend, so they knew they were alive. They report her vehicle. This is what I don't understand. So this is on Friday, they're reported missing by her family. The police in the Lawrence, was it the Lawrenceville police? The police went out and checked on Tuesday. So this was the weekend of September 11th. So I don't know, you probably remember, a lot of people were, I don't want to say celebrating, memorializing that day. And I don't know if because these were 2 adults, and when the family called missing adults, they said, okay, well, I mean, I don't know if her family must have not have, what I'm trying to get at, when the cops finally showed up on Tuesday, they found her, Terry, on the floor with a gunshot in her head, dead, and he was missing. So then, all of a sudden, it became, instead of 2 missing people, it became, okay, now this is a murder and the suspect. So they did find him within 2 days. So by last Thursday, they located him. He was in Colorado, in Denver, and he was arrested when they found him. I just don't know why there was that 2-day time period. In South Carolina, perhaps if adults are missing, they wait. We've heard that in the past, like they have to wait 24, 48, 72 hours, I guess. And then plus added in with the September 11th stuff going on Monday, they waited until Tuesday. So what I would say, we will obviously hear more about this because they said he hasn't, all the reporting is he hasn't pled anything, he hasn't had a hearing in court. But that is probably because he is arrested and he's in Denver in jail, but he'll be extradited back to where the crime occurred, back to South Carolina. So I don't think he'll plead in Denver. I think how that goes is he's arrested, he will have a hearing, and that's what we haven't heard about. It may have happened Friday, but it may happen Monday, and then he'll be extradited, I am sure, back. So Terry, they're doing an autopsy. We haven't heard about all that because, again, she was found Tuesday, they went looking for him, he was found Thursday, and everybody's just catching up on like what in the heck happened. I would say, what can we learn from all this? What we can learn is ask for a wellness check if you can't get a hold of your relatives. A wellness check, they'll go out there and do that, and they would have found her immediately. Just waiting days and days, when you just say, oh, there was 2 adults missing, and it was with September 11th, some people probably had off work. Maybe, cops will go, oh, it's the weekend, they're out. People don't tell their relatives everything they're doing. That happens. So ask for a wellness check. That is my advice if you have a missing person who is an adult that you're concerned about. A wellness check is what you ask for. So the court records did show that he had in the past pleaded guilty to domestic violence in 2007. I don't remember if it was with her or not. It must have been. I thought she was really young from the pictures and he was old. And like, what was she doing with him? And I, of course, had conjured this whole like scenario in my head. Okay, so she was 49 and he was 48. She just looked terrific and he looked horrible. So I am sure we will find out what happened with this. There was an interesting little aside to it. When they went, they find her Tuesday and they're like, okay, the guy probably did it. Where is he? Or, looking for him. They pinged their phones. Hers pinged in Florida and his pinged in North Carolina. Isn't that interesting? So I wonder, was he going out of town and he dropped his phone someplace and then maybe threw her phone in somebody else's car, like at a gas station? Think about, but keep your windows up at gas stations. Can you imagine if somebody just threw a phone in your car, like it slid in the back seat and you wouldn't even know it was there and it's tracking, to someplace? It's just weird why her phone would have been found there. I don't think from the time he may have unalived her to when she was found Tuesday. I don't think he went to Florida first, like North Carolina. He wouldn't have gone South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida. That doesn't make any sense. So it seems like he did something hinky with the phones. All right, that is our second new case. So that one, it's new, but it's not just, they're still investigating, but he is hooked, he is booked, and we will hear more about him going through, the justice system at that point. All right, so that was case 2. Case 3, our third new case. Everybody take a drink. That is very refreshing. Sweating a little bit. North Carolina teens. This is horrible. It sort of went quickly from, boy, were they missing the same weekend? I'm telling you. I'm trying to look at the exact dates. If it was like that same weekend. So I think it was last weekend. So after the 9th, it would have been 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I think it was like 15th, 16th. Both teens were missing last Saturday, and they went out. Where did they go out Friday? I said it looks like it happens Friday. Lyric Woods is a 14-year-old. They went to different high schools, but they were acquaintances. And 18-year-old Devin Clark. They seem to have gone out Friday. By Saturday, the 14-year-old's mom, the family is, where is she? They report her missing. And then the 18-year-old is reported missing early Sunday. So he's a boy. He's 18. They wait a little bit longer, and who knows? Maybe they were told to wait a little bit. He's 18, ma'am. We can't do anything. So over the weekend, they were both reported missing. They were found in a. If you live out in the country at all, you might know that when there's easements for utility things, and they were out where ATVs ride in the utility easement. And they were found in a car, and both had been shot. So, which is horrific. I don't know if his funeral was today, her funeral. She was buried today, Saturday, on the 24th. I mean, it seems to be senseless, but police right away must have gotten tips. They have already arrested a 17-year-old. Okay. This is North Carolina. It's in Orange County. Sheriff's Office is taking care of this. So in North Carolina in 2019, and I actually sort of agree with this, you can no longer automatically charge 16 and 17-year-olds as adults just because they committed a heinous crime, which I kind of agree with. Developmentally, really, there's lots of reasons I can think that it's not a great idea to put them right directly into the adult penal system. There really isn't. I mean, we're going to talk about a couple other cases, and I can tell you, if you are right into the system at 16 because you've done something horrible, then you're raised in the criminal system with adults. You should. I can't say you should never be out, but that is not going to, in my opinion, my PhD work was in educational psychology, child development. I will just tell you that would impinge greatly already on obviously somebody who has a difficult time and isn't using their, isn't expressing themselves at all appropriately for society, but then to have them be raised with criminals, I can't see how you could ever let them out then. And that's not the point. I mean, that's not what we think of as the point anyways. The point is, so this 17-year-old will have to go through a process. The state still can eventually charge him as an adult if it meets certain criteria, and if they choose so, that's what will happen. So it's not like if you're 16 or 17, go hog wild. You won't. You have to have like adult responsibilities and consequences. That's not it. North Carolina was just trying to give like sort of, it seems like it went into effect December 6th, I believe, of 2019. Just that we don't always just throw away the key automatically, but that each situation is looked at judiciously, which I think it is true. So this 17-year-old, and it also means that we don't know anything about this individual right now because they're underage. We can obviously make a guess. Was it, the couple was biracial. Their relationship, and as far as we know, was just acquaintances, but he was African American, black, and she was Caucasian, white. Was somebody, now, it could have just been pure jealousy by anybody, boy or girl, right? We don't know, who wanted to date one of them. Was it somebody with a problem with people of different races, being friends, dating. We don't know. There's a lot of that going around, right? We don't know what this 17-year-old, who he or she is. We don't know what their motivations are. We can sort of guess just because, I mean, right away I'm guessing somebody was dating one of them and got mad that they were even just talking to one another. Because when people are young, they're dumb, and if they have access to weapons and are violent, we get this. But that's all supposition, right? So this is a new case, but somebody was arrested. They are hooked. They are booked. I think we'll find out more about it. So that was our third case. All right. Who needs we need more drinks. We do need more drinks after that. That's horrific. And I can't even imagine getting a phone call that your child at any age has been shot in the head, let alone one that just went out with a friend and drove to an area, a park, a recreational area. Unbelievable. All right. Kids killing kids. It'll drive you to drink. Speaking of kids and drinking, episode 29, we have our fourth case. This is an update. I can't even say it's an update on like a true crime because we don't know a crime occurred factually, evidentially, but a lot of people cannot get over this. So this is the Kiely Rodni case. And I would just like to apologize. I'm sure my channel is so tiny, but if you happen to know the family, I apologize, especially to her mother. And father, and friends. There is so much. It is like the worst of high school gossiping on the internet. And even some channels that I watch because I like their personalities. And I'm not going to say this person's name, but they can't let it go. They can't stop looking at the pictures underwater and then like trying to guess. It's morbid, and also that's someone's baby, and also so that bothers me, the whole like trying to get a better look at anything that has to do with the actual person. Now, one thing I think it is important to talk about is we do want to let law enforcement do their due diligence, but last week I told you that they found her computer that had fallen out of the car, and literally this YouTuber called Check It TV was on a paddleboard and put their phone in the water, and you could see clearly like the shiny surface of a laptop and other stuff right underneath them. Now we know that due to the climate stuff going on, that the reservoir has been lowering, and I don't know. I will try to see if I can Google if we know how many inches per week it's been going down, if it's been like that severe. It might be because she was found in 14 feet of water, and there was a lot of buildup on the car. Let me just tell you. So the chitter chatter is, oh my God, the car wasn't there before because the cops had looked, and they looked right there and they couldn't find it. And so obviously somebody must have put the car in there afterwards. And I'm like, okay, but regardless, that will be obvious upon examination because a body in the water longer will decompose. Like they will know the rate that it should have decomposed if it wasn't in there the whole time. So that will be found out. Also, the amount of buildup of like, I don't want to call it pond scum, but things that are in the water get buildup. I don't know how fast that happens, but it looked to me like her car looked like it had enough like underwater growth that it had to be there like 3 weeks, because when he was trying to see in the windows, there was like noticeable buildup, which I thought was even kind of amazing that there would be that much buildup after 3 weeks. So I thought it. Now that's, I'm not a biologist or I was going to say herbologist. I mean, I don't study biological plant life buildup of microbes under the water. So maybe that could have happened in 2 or 3 days or 1 week. I don't know. And it's also not, it's a reservoir. It was a man-made reservoir. So I don't know if what feeds it, if it has any current. I don't know how much the water moves around. There are fish in it because there were fish in the in Adventures with Purpose video. So one of the channels that I think let's just clear this up. I think we won't know anything officially until November. That's what the officials have said out of Nevada County. They've said that's when toxicology will come back, and they are not saying anything. Now, I think if it was a pure accident, they would have said maybe they don't know why the accident occurred, like was she drunk or not. But if it was just an accident, clearly, I believe they would say it was an accident and we're looking for the reason why. I think they would have declared that sooner, but that's just my personal opinion. And they have publicly said in November we'll know. So I think it's just the loss of somebody who seems so vibrant and talented and had their whole life ahead of them. We don't like that psychologically. It seems so unfair. It seems to the point where psychologically, if that could happen to somebody like her, then anything could happen to somebody like me or my own kids or anybody. Like, the world is chaos. That kind of is why psychologists think, and I agree, I'm one, that would say we look for rationale, we look for reasons. We want to say this is why, so that it calms us. And also, if we know this is why, I've always said on all, if you're new, you might not know this, but I try to always say, so what can we learn from this? I don't want it just to be voyeurism and like, oh my God, can you believe what happened? Ah, that's terrible. That's awful. Oh, but it is terrible and awful. But also, we kind of want to know about true crime so we can avoid it ourselves, right? Like, it's horrible that this happens, but what signs could we see, like in a dangerous person, or what could we perhaps avoid doing, or what could we do better to not be a victim? That's a reality in a world with other humans that aren't developed appropriately and socially in a kind way, so that they become predators. And so what can we do not to become victims? That is a normal thing to want to know, I think. They say, why are so many women interested in true crime? And part of it is, well, physically we're smaller, we're more at risk to be a victim. And so I think we are obsessed with, like, how can I not become a victim? Well, I'm going to look at all these other situations and what went wrong. I don't want to do that. I think that is a big part of true crime, personally. It's not just gross fascination. I mean, there are people that we know are ghostly fascinated, and those people tend to be the people that we talk about later. But most people aren't interested because it is like there, but for the grace of God go I, and how do I make sure it's not I? That's my opinion. All right, so, and I think Kiely Rodni is, she was at a party. Did she drive drunk? We don't know. I do, though, think, I'm going to say, the road out to where she went was very rutted, and it would have been obvious she wasn't on the path where she should have been. When people have driven it, and people have driven it in day and night, it's very, like, you bottom out, very rutted before you get to down towards where the water is. Now, if you could get that far, you might not see the water. That's true. But the way home was paved out of the party area. So she would have known right away, whoa, I'm way the F off where I should be. This isn't paved. And she knows there's water around there. So even if she is wasted, she might be even more paranoid. I don't know. That part I don't like. And the other thing I didn't like is I wanted to do a demonstration. Here I have, all right, here I have a little toy vehicle, right? And on the driver's side, I'm going to put bloop, bloop, bloop. Okay, this is the driver's side, and here is the pink, right? All right, so if Kiely drove into the water, right, down into the water, she floats for a second. We know that the engine would go down first, right? And they said it was on its roof, tipped up slightly. Okay, so this is how it ends up if it went in straight. And here you can see the driver's side window facing out, right? And the car is facing back towards where it came because it went down. Now, there's only 14 feet of water here because people are like, well, it didn't have time to do revolutions, right? So if it went in and a car is what, 8 feet, 10 feet long, and the water's 14 feet, if it's pulled down and bonk, hits. Now, the thing is, see how I have it like this, if it hits? Because we saw that the back was slightly up, right? But that was on the slope. The slope went into the water this way. So if she went in straight and went upside down, she would be facing towards the land, but it would have been like this. The slope would be like this, not the backside up. It would have to be like this. Okay, now if somehow the car went in backwards, now the driver's side is over here. She goes in rear first, floats for a second, goes forward, ends up on the roof. Now, do you see that position? The car would be facing out, and where the license plate is would be slightly up because it would be up on the slope of where she came in, which I believe was what was shown in the AWP video. I also believe on Mike King's show, Profiling Evil, go watch when Doug Bishop and Nick were speaking with him, and he asked twice, which way was she facing? Was the car facing out towards the lake, or was it facing towards the shore? And the guy was like, oh, out towards the lake. And because of the slope, and because we can see when he goes to the back, the carriage is slightly up in the back where he wipes away the license plate. It seems to me like then she went in backwards. It floats, bloop, and it's on the backside. Now, the other thing is, do you remember when it comes out of the water, so the shore is here, when it comes out of the water, they bring it up, bumper up first, they bring it up so that the driver's side was facing towards where where it went in, the water went in over there a little bit more. At that point, her window was broken out, as was this side view mirror. So when it's in the water, if she backed in, like I think, if it's like this and it goes down and it flips once over and then lays on the bottom in this position, if they flip the car towards the driver's side, if they flip it this way and they, knock it against the rocks, so they're trying to bring it up, they're trying to roll it, and they bring it up, look which side the driver's on. That's the side they brought it up. Now, if she would have gone in, if she would have floored it, right? And oh no, floating. Oh no, I'm going down. Oh, I'm flipping. Okay. If she was like this and they damaged the door and rolled it that way to get it up, they would have brought her up this way. The driver's side would be, it would be brought up front ways. Because I don't think that if the car went into the water, flipped, I don't think that, and we know it was rolled over this way, I don't think that somehow in 14 feet of water, they rolled it over in the water and then flipped it around to bring it up. No. I think we know the positioning by how it was brought out of the water. I think it was, so this is the driver's side, has the pink, right? I think she went in backwards, she floated, the engine pulled it down, she flipped over in that 14 feet of water, and it was on a slight incline with, as we saw, the license plate up slightly, because it's on that downward slope slightly. And I think, because when they go down, I think that then they rolled it. So I think then they rolled it this way, crunching the door to get it upright, and then pulled it out backwards, and that's what we saw, the broken out door. We know they rolled it towards the door side, whichever way they rolled it, because that's how that window got broken on the driver's side, and that's how the window, the little rear, what's that called? The side window, the little side view mirror, your rear view mirror got broken. The only way that happened was, okay, again, if she went in backwards, it pulls down towards the engine, flips, is on the bottom like that. Then when they get it, they probably rolled towards the, like everything that was more, they didn't want to roll towards the broken one. They rolled it over and pulled it up with the driver's side facing the side that we know it was facing. Because otherwise, going in front ways, okay, you're flipping, okay, you're on your back. First of all, the front would be up a little bit more, but even if you're on your back and they roll you towards the driver's side, then the driver's side, is over here. On my piece of paper. The driver's side is on the wrong side of the car. And they didn't then also do that in the water. So, thank you. Thank you for watching my demonstration. But seriously, I think physics-wise, because there's only 14 feet of water, she had to have gone in backwards. And I think going in backwards doesn't make a lot of sense. Unless, I think so. Again, I apologize to Kylie's parents that we are even talking about this still and making all these predictions. The other important thing, okay, so Anyways, that's why I said it's hard to say this is a crime. I think it sounds like a crime because if she went in the water backwards, it sounds like somebody pushed her car in backwards. And I don't like it. I think something happened at the party, and I think kids thought that was a way to get rid of evidence. That's what I think. That is just pure speculation, and if so, somebody needs to pay. And I think AWP knew, that's why they knew that it wasn't right. Not because of where her body was, because yeah, you could chase air and end up in the back. That's not why they knew. They knew because they knew her car had to have gone in backwards for how it sank. And somebody pushed it in backwards. She didn't drive in, she didn't reverse her car, because it wasn't even a flat thing that you could like, oops, now I'm in water, which would be dumb. Why would you revert? That's why. AWP knew from the position on the bottom that it went in backwards, and somebody hurt that girl. That's how he knew. Not from just where she was. No, it was because of the position of the car. And that means her parents deserve to know who did that to their baby. That's what gets me going. All right. One person we know didn't do it, and please, we need everybody to leave him alone, is the ex-boyfriend. Even though he acted really squirrely, we don't know why he was in Nevada with the news crew saying he was going to find her in Nevada. I don't know, was he in shock? Maybe, perhaps. That was all really strange. But apparently, the Nevada County has confirmed to the Sun. The Sun, to me, is kind of like the Post, so, you know, it's on the sort of rag side of, like, gossipy. Which, hey, I'm the True Crime Grapevine. Take gossip for what it is, right? But the Nevada County Sheriff's Office did respond in writing to the Sun, asking the Sun said, was Jagger, I think it's Westfall, was her boyfriend, was he eliminated as a suspect, or like did his alibi check out? And the Nevada County responded in writing, yes. That was Mel from Mel. He's a really good channel who tries to, like, he will let anybody sort of speculate on his channel within reason. He's very respectful, but what I like is he like puts an end to the BS, especially about like hurting these kids. Everybody wants to chase after Sammy. Oh, she did something. Everybody, I mean, I don't know. And maybe she did. And I can't say who did what, because they all acted squirrely. But have you met 18-year-old kids who've been drinking and been caught drinking and something happens? They do act squirrely. We don't know why, but Jagger has been, at least so far, cleared by the Nevada County Police. So I think maybe we need to not get on him anymore, okay? Let's see. Yeah, so my whole thing was, again, all I'm going to say is, we know it was found with the tail up a little bit from how he wiped off go watch that video, and we know that the driver's side was smushed, and that's how they brought it up. That's all I have to say about that one. All right, so that was our fourth case. Everybody, take a drink. I will say, I think it becomes a little morbid when we get a little bit into that. But I do think my car, I think that shows that's why AWP thought immediately that there was foul play, because of the positioning of the car, because it meant it was reversed in, and that ain't right. Let's go on to, speaking of what can we learn? Let's see, is this our fifth case? Now I have to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Eliza Fletcher update. So there's not a lot of update on the actual crime. Investigators are still working. They're doing all their forensics. We do have a suspect, as you know, who's hooked and booked, Cleo, who really his last name is Henderson, it appears like. He had a different last name, but I think that was his brother's last name that perhaps he used at times, but it's Cleoa. I'm just calling Cleo. Henderson. He, let's just have a little callback to why North Carolina is being a little more careful with 16 and 17-year-olds and not just immediately throwing them into the adult population and like, let's convict them of the adult crime and too bad for them. Their brains are different, and Cleo is an example. Now everybody will say, oh, he did horrible things when he was 12 and 14, and okay, but I don't know if he was a sociopath or a psychopath or any of the paths, but I do know that when he was 16, he went into adult prison and was there until he was, 28, 38? I mean, he was raised for 20 years. He was so he was 36 when he came out, right? He was there for 20 years. And everybody's like, yeah, but he should have been in there for 24. One thing, let me just say, if he was in there for 24 years, he would have come out and done the same damn thing that he did. So, I mean, it wouldn't have happened this year to Eliza Fletcher. It could have happened in, 2 more years to Eliza Fletcher or everybody else that he victimized. I don't think it's like he didn't do the last 4 years of his 24-year sentence. I think it's more of he was obviously a dangerous sociopath by that time and he was somehow cleared to be let out of prison, which I would say, I don't know if someone who was raised in prison, if they shouldn't be somehow checked before. I know we have yes, you paid your debt to society, but what about letting out violent criminals? We must do something about that, or at least watch them more. Or I don't know. I don't think you should be with adult criminal men from 16 until you turn 21. I think he should have gotten a lot of therapy and help. And why? Because then we wouldn't, if you say, well, why waste all that money? Because then you wouldn't maybe have an Eliza Fletcher. And we can't say we'll know because we can't back up time and redo it. But everything I know about child development, having a 16-year-old who is already troubled, thrown into the, adult penal system and kept there until he's 36 for 20 years, you just created a monster. And we did. And I think maybe those type of people, developmental psychologists, forensic psychologists, should have been able to say, you should probably track people, especially like him. There's things about his crimes previously and his, I can't believe he didn't trip some sort of psychological warning wires, because he could have at least been watched a lot clearer. So what happened, what we know now, why we're still talking about him in this update is, it was found that a black woman, okay, not a rich white heiress, had been raped a whole year before, and the DNA in that area only has 4 scientists in Memphis, Tennessee. I'm trying to think of what the capital of Tennessee is, but it's one of the biggest cities in Tennessee. TBI, they have 4 people doing DNA tests for violent crimes, rape, murder. I think also the robberies and break-ins, which I would put that way, if someone wasn't physically harmed, I don't know why they don't expedite everything that is a violent crime against a human. Anybody murdered, anybody raped, that should be immediately expedited no matter what. I don't know what their numbers are, but what happened was, this woman, not only was this woman raped, but she had been on a dating site. She had his name. She had his phone number. They put him in a lineup, but she couldn't identify him. But she heard them say, apparently, well, maybe we should use an updated picture, because I don't know if they had his 16-year-old picture from 20 years before when he went into the system, maybe. And they didn't run his DNA immediately. They had him. They knew. They had every reason to believe. They had his name. They had an eyewitness. But she couldn't say from the picture that they showed her, but it wasn't a recent picture. So she now, her kit was finally, amazingly, right after Eliza Fletcher was killed, her kit was tested and it was found, yeah, he did this a year before. Could have been that. If you want anything that we could definitely do immediately right now is, test those kits immediately. Because, yeah, he would have been in jail. He would have immediately been revoked back into the system. Probably where he deserves to be. And I think not unduly because of how our system creates these people. We developmentally didn't do him any good and maybe a lot of harm. We will never know because we can't back up time. But we do know that, and let me see, I know I wrote her name down. Alicia Franklin, she gave them all this information to the Memphis PD. And her kit wasn't processed until September 5th. And it happened last year, September 2021. She gave them his name, his phone number, his social media site, took them to the scene of the crime. She had a rape kit done, so they had his DNA. But when she was shown the lineup, she couldn't recognize him. That is not Alicia's fault. And she heard them say, maybe we should show her whatever. And they never got back to her to show her an updated version. And I can tell you, so she's suing them, so we'll find out. If that picture was when he was like 16 or 18 when he turned an adult or whatever, almost 20 years, that is a failure in the system. And don't tell me it wasn't, because she wasn't a white heiress who was taken. Let's immediately, of course, I'm sure that has the money aspect and power in the community had the most to do with it, but it's racial too. It is. And, she went on a date with him. You just know some of these people are like, well, was it really rape? Did she say no, but didn't, that crap went on. And if they would have stopped it then, Eliza would be alive. So, let's not just go, he was a horrible man and he should have spent his 4 more years. No, we could have caught him. Alicia could have caught him. She would have done, all she needed was an updated picture probably. Even if she couldn't identify him, they had his DNA. Well, run that shit. Run that shit. You have every right to expedite it because you have a known guy who had a past of rape. He just got out of prison a year before that. She had his name and his number, it matches, and a rape kit. And you have his DNA because he's in CODIS system. That is lazy police work. And it's because of devaluing women, specifically African American women, but women in general. So, Eliza Fletcher's family, if you're listening, like and subscribe. But if you're listening, use your power and your money to A, get more scientists at TBI, B, work politically to make sure that rape kits are all processed quickly. Like, it should be no less than 2 months. You should have a dedicated murder, dedicated rape, and then robbery should be the last. Sorry. You could do some triaging with your DNA, TBI. You could. And I think updated pictures of somebody when you have their name and their number and you know that they're a criminal, come on, Memphis. Maybe that's why there's so many crime. I wouldn't send my kid to Memphis College, to the university there, anywhere there. Hell, I'm not even going to go to Nashville. Who knows what happened? Like, no offense, that all reflects on your state. If you can't keep an heiress safe because, you know why? Because you didn't keep the average Black American woman who reported all the information to you. See, that's what happens. We're all connected, folks. We're all connected. You screw over one person, you think, that's just a little person. What does it really matter? But then who knows? See, in 2 years or in a year, it took the life of somebody who, we value this life so much. If you valued that life so much, guess what? You had to value Alicia's life and her experience just as much. It's all connected, folks. Regardless of your beliefs of higher beings or whatever, we're all connected. You never know who it's going to be. So you have to treat everybody with the same level of importance, equality. That's what we're fighting for, people. All right. So that is a very sad tale. And I believe there was another crime that he committed that now they found out through DNA analysis. I mean, again, the system, he didn't have a chance, it seems, as a kid, and was already a monster by the time he was 16. And then instead of trying to undo that by lots of therapy, and it should have been mandatory. Like, if we have people who are violent and we're not going to keep them in forever, which I don't think we should give them intensive help, because we're putting them out with us. So don't say, oh, why waste all that money? Well, why waste all the money giving it to, like, freebies for big companies when that's not what's really killing us? What's killing us is allowing humans to become predators and not caring. And because we don't care, they'll eventually come after us. We're all connected. Hey, since we're all connected, why don't you connect with me and like and subscribe? Yes, shameless plug. Sorry. All right. So, but that is something we can learn. And I'm sure we are going to be learning more about the whole Tennessee system. We're going to be learning more about the Memphis PD system. We should give a big thank you to, I want to make sure, Alicia Franklin for coming forward. And, you know, the thing is about suing, it's not like, oh, they're getting money. You can't change the system if you don't sue to change it. That's the way it works. You have to be willing to say, that was wrong, and I'm going to prove you're wrong, and the way to change it is by using the system, using laws. That's how we change things. There was one thing mentioned by Scott Reich, I believe it was him, who mentioned the problem of there's something called sovereign immunity. Judges have judicial immunity. It's like they can make, we can't be suing everybody who we elect to make decisions, because the system would get bogged down because nobody likes their decisions made. So it's kind of hard. It is hard to sue the police department. But with the Fletchers' money and prominence, and with this case, I believe that they could get with Alicia's family and lawyer and work to, it could be a federal charge. It could be seen as a hate crime. That they didn't do her due diligence when she gave them everything she could because she was just a black woman. I don't know, but so, maybe the Memphis police would like to apologize and change their ways, and they could avoid a lawsuit by saying, we're already making these changes. Yes, we did something wrong. Wow, what about that? What about, instead of having to go through a lengthy court battle, how about people go, wow, we made a horrible mistake. That was an oversight, and here's what we're going to do to change it. You could do that. Sorry, I'm going to get all upset about it. All right, again. Hey, get your Seagram's spiked crisp green apple drink and throw it back. Episode 29. It's a crisp one. All right. Still September 24th here. We are still reviewing the true crime that has happened between September 15th and today. So the last 9 days. Folks, you may be aware, I didn't cover the original case because it happened before I started my channel, but I, of course, was following it. It is the case of Letitia Stout, who was the stepmother to Gannon Stout, an 11-year-old boy in Colorado, who was home. I don't remember if it was COVID times. Yeah, he was in his basement bedroom. The stepmom, I believe they had a daughter together, she and Gannon's father. And I don't know, Gannon obviously upset her and she beat the shit out of him and killed him. I believe also maybe shot him once. I'm sure what happened was she lost her ever-loving shit, was beating him to the point where she knew like he needed medical attention, and instead of doing that, he was probably making noises or something, then there was a gunshot involved. You know, like one puts down a dog. So Letitia, she's kind of, in my opinion, allegedly your basic average evil stepmother, step monster. Then what Letitia did was, well, she said he didn't come home from a friend's house. She didn't know where he was. So that's false reporting to the police. And then she took his body into, wrapped it up in a blanket. So the upshot is she ran around with Gannon's body, and eventually she drove his body and dumped it in near a bridge in Florida, and then between going back to her home in South Carolina. Eventually, I mean, she wasn't very sly about this. She was caught. She was put into jail. Then she tried to, on her way being extradited back to Colorado, she tried to, I think she was in Pueblo on the way back. Anyway, she tried to escape from a jail there. I think she tried to jump out of the actual transport. I mean, so this shows like planning, hiding, consciousness of guilt, awareness that she did something wrong. She had lied and made an excuse to the police in Colorado when she's doing all this other stuff going around. Now, and then she represented herself, and then she tried to be crazy, and then this has been forever that she's been playing these games with the court. Now she has lawyers again. She went through she tried to say that she was by reason of insanity. The state examined her and said no, she is sane, she's competent for trial. Now her lawyers have said no. So now we know, Wednesday, it was shared that there was a September 12th filing from her lawyers. They have a expert, Dr. Lewis, who wants to have her examined, and they want to have her examined at the state hospital because she needs an EKG and an EEG, because this woman is an expert in dissociative identity disorder, which I had to look up because I'm not an abnormal psych person. I mean, I don't know, maybe I am abnormal psych problems, but I studied typical development in educational psychology, how people typically develop through the human cycle, their motivations, how they create, how cognition works, how memories work, how expertise develops. That's what I studied. So abnormal psychology is all the problems people have. And then within abnormal psychology, there's like criminal psychology, and then forensics, which actually are the people that deal directly with criminals. And so this Dr. Lewis is an expert in this dissociative identity disorder, which we used to know as, get your drinks out, people. You're not going to believe this one. Sorry for the slurping. Multiple personalities. That's what they're going to go with. Multiple personalities. It wasn't her. She was in an altered, it was one of her alter egos. It wasn't her who killed her son. She didn't even, okay. I looked it up. There was a 2015 article written about criminality and use of dissociative identity disorder or multiple personality disorders to get out of criminal proceedings. And while one case in 1978 worked, since that time, nobody buys that. Not that people don't maybe have it, but they've said even if they have multiple personalities, that doesn't make you not culpable and responsible for what your other person, like, they're all yours. Sorry. But consciousness of doing something doesn't, apparently, there's precedent set for that. That doesn't matter. So, yeah, Letitia, good luck, girl. Even if you have multiple Letitias, which the symptomology and criteria for multiple personalities, or identities, the thing is, I don't think she meets it. I mean, I don't know. You'd have to talk to her ex-husband, Gannon's father, or other people. But, I mean, does she seem kooky? and self-centered, yes. But she like lied, a plausible lie. She took care of a mess. Like she did everything rationally. I don't know how, I mean, you would think if it was another personality, you'd be like, I don't know what happened. I found him. Like if you actually weren't aware that your other personality did this act. And then she tried to run away, and then she tried to get out of it. I mean, I think she thinks she's pretty smart, and she's going to, as we say, malinger or feign this. And it's been tried before. Bye, Letitia. She bothers me. All right. We're on to our 7th or 8th case, the Vallow Daybell update. All right. Again, take a drink because this is not good. So there's something about either Idaho or something about Judge Boyce in Idaho that we've talked in the past about them sealing everything. We have on October 13th a hearing to unseal certain like things that did not go through the process that you have to officially seal hearing, like have hearings held in private. Because in our system, part of the transparency is to see the courts in action so that we can all see, yeah, they're fair. Like, oh, that's fair. I mean, the thing that happened in Florida where we saw something occur and everybody was like, yeah, unfair, no, that's wrong. And eventually that judge was overturned and like sort of, yeah, wrong. Okay, but we don't know that occurs if it was like all under wraps. So this case, a lot of it has been, for some reason, since Lori's been out of the mental facility, has been under wraps. And we don't know why. So is it to protect the state? Is it protect everybody involved that's a Mormon? Like, do they not look, like, is their religion looking a little, like, there's a lot of cults that have developed out of the mainstream Mormons. So I'm not saying mainstream Mormons have a problem, but I'm saying there's a pattern, a historical pattern. And it probably has something to do with the tenets of Mormonism is that there is a living representative God here on earth. And who is that person, right? So a lot of people have been like, well, it's me. Hello, God talks to me. Ergo, I'm the head of the church. It's not that other guy. He's a fake prophet. I'm the prophet. So if your religion says that there is a human being that's a prophet, who is it? It leads to people feeling that they're a prophet. It happened with the Warren Jeffs people. It happened with what was his name? Was it LaRose? The people that ran to Mexico. I mean, John Krakauer did a book, Under the Banner of Heaven. Those people they started out as typical Mormons and then went off the rails as in extremism because they felt they were the prophet. Now, so Rob Wood, I believe, is a member of the Mormon Church, and I don't know if Judge Boyce is, but many people in the area are, and there's nothing wrong with that, except are they embarrassed about what is coming? See, this is the thing, and if that's not true, they would say, well, you can't, that is just disrespectful to bring up people's religion, as if we couldn't judge murder just because we're Mormons. That's dumb. Okay? But we don't know. That's the problem. You hiding everything makes us go, ooh, well, wow, is it about? Is it about them all being Mormons? What's with Idaho and the Mormons? See, so it actually makes it worse for Idaho, for everybody in Idaho, for others looking into the system going, what, are they being secret because they're Mormons? Is it that? We don't know. And so we're at a loss because it's not just Lori's, the defense, that wants things to be secret because they're embarrassed because she's a loon, let's just say. But now the prosecution also is like, yeah, we also like no. So the latest is, I don't know how they got such close-ups. They probably shouldn't have done that, but the court, maybe, I don't know. The court should have just said you can take a long view of everybody in the court, a static view, a static camera. That's probably what it should have been, from the front and the back, period. But instead, they were allowed to put things different places, and all anybody was interested in was Lori's reactions. And so our last hearing that we got on camera was of close-ups of Lori Vallow. And it was entertaining because she's nuts. I mean, not in the legal sense of the word. She's competent. But, like, really, she's a lot. Let's just say she's a lot, and it is interesting to watch because it's like she whatever. I don't know. I guess hearings leading up to the trial make sense not to have cameras. I agree with that. I don't have a problem with that. But Judge Boyce now said no. He revoked any sort of any cameras, any visual equipment in the room, and not in the trial either. So here's the thing, though. They moved the trial from Fremont County to Ada County to get a more fair jury. But then the people who care about what happened in their community, they would have to travel 4 hours. And Boyce is like, oh, we'll hold seats for you. Yeah, it's 4 hours in January. So thanks, dude. So instead of like taking a half day at work or going there on your lunch hour or whatever, if you're a stay-at-home mom or a retiree that you could just walk and go to court, it's right there in town. Now you have to go 4 hours there and 4 hours back. Okay, that's an 8-hour day, and plus, 8 hours in court? Now you're just spending, like, what? In winter? Through Idaho? It's rude. And it's rude. They're doing everything, it seems like they're doing everything they can to hide what's going on. And really, why? During the trial, why? The jurors won't, like, they're like, oh, the jurors will be whatever. Dude, everybody knows the story already. Everybody. And if they don't know, they don't know. But then if they haven't looked on social media before, they're not looking now. And if they are a social media person, they've already looked. So cat's out of the bag. I really, is it a weird control thing? I don't know what Judge Boyce's personality is like, but this whole, like, we're going to hide is weird. It's really weird. What are you hiding? Why? There's so many other trials that have said disgusting, horrible things. So I don't really see, I don't get it. So yeah, there will be no more things. Oh, the other major development is Melanice. If you listen to Pretty Lies and Alibis, they started saying because there's Melanie Gibb and then Melanie Boudreau, Petrowski. What was her last name? She's married to Ian Petrowski. Is that how you say it? She is the niece of Lori. She just got hit in Arizona with computer hacking crimes because she, long after she was divorced, was looking at checks being cashed by Brandon Boudreau. Anyways, and another interesting fact, in the Netflix show, they talked about the family and they left out Stacy, Melanice's mom. And it's a really big thing because she talks about how she was so connected to Lori. She ended up moving to Idaho where Lori and Chad is. She divorced her husband when Lori, her husband worked with Charles. Melanice's husband did insurance with Charles Vallow. Charles Vallow was shot by Alex Cox. They all then all of a sudden Melanice also moves with Lori. She divorces her husband Brandon out of the blue. Within 2 weeks is married to another guy. And she really loves Lori, like follows her. You know, like she's a goddess. But this whole relationship is predicated on the fact that Melanie Podrowski lost her mom, Stacy. She was the oldest. She was Lori's oldest sister. It's weird that they don't bring this up. The whole Netflix Sins of Our Mother, I must say, it has a very specific, pared down, and easy to follow train of thought that is basically Lori was like whatever until she met Chad, and then together they created this cult, and it was just bad news. Lori was bad news way before Chad. I'm not saying Chad wasn't cuckoo for coconuts, but Lori, she had problems. Their whole family had issues, and like big issues. And Lori went from marriage to marriage, kid to kid, claiming all sorts of abuse every time. Kiely was kept away from her father, and the therapist said, this looks like she's coached. There was like a therapist involved because, I mean, and God bless Cody. I do believe maybe Joe Ryan was like rough with him, like angry. I don't think there was sexual abuse. Sorry, I don't. Why? Because Lori lies about everything, and that was her main lie. And if you start telling that to a kid who's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, oh, he did that to you, you can't, that's how you create a false memory. You can create false memories, but it takes somebody constantly telling you the story, especially when you're young, until the point that that becomes your memory. I'm telling you. And she said, before this all happened, when she was in that one meeting of the preparing of the people, when that whole speech she makes about how she was gonna murder Joe Ryan, but thank God he died, right, and left her all the money, it was that, what did she say, blah 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 blah, but I knew, and because an angel spoke to me. Dude, she is schizophrenic. If we want to talk about, like, yeah, I do believe she has a mental illness. I do believe she's schizophrenic. She probably needs to be on medicine. You hear voices, you think you're a god. Like, she thought she had a special relationship with God before she ever met Chad Daybell. Her sickness in her brain made her feel like Chad like it fed into that. I completely believe she's schizophrenic. Sorry, I do. She could probably get off because of it. Or maybe not. I don't know. I mean, she belongs locked up for the rest of her life, but I believe she'll end up in a mental hospital. To tell you the truth, I don't think if Lori Vallow wasn't sick in the head, she never would have chose Chad Daybell because he didn't look right. He wasn't rich. I think it's her sickness and her belief in, like, he fed into her delusional mind. This is all my supposition. This is not based in, like, I haven't looked at anybody clinically. I am not a forensic psychologist, but I will just tell you, she heard voices before she ever met Chad Daybell. She felt that she was special before. She made weird comments. She saw everybody as out to get her kids. If anybody hurt Colby, she hurt Colby, in my opinion. Why? Because he said it was like they had this great relation. Like, she didn't want anybody near her kids but her. And her whole family, her sister, who died of an eating disorder. So, Dad perhaps had an issue. I don't know. But Alex obviously had problems. Lori did not just meet Chad and, it was just this crazy thing that happened. Just like if they never would have met, this never would have happened. No, Lori had problems. Lori should have been stopped long before. Now, the whole part about the police not listening to Charles, again, is that because they're in an area where, like, the cops, one of them was Mormon, and I remember her going, well, like, I mean, I don't know why nobody listened to Charles. Like, and I do not believe, I still have not seen definitive evidence that Lori was seen by anybody at a healthcare. I think she said she did. But we know that she just talked her way out of anything because she was pretty, blonde, talkative, and charmed people. And she knew she was lying, and she knew what she did was wrong, but I still believe she has like a delusional aspect. I don't know if there's different forms of schizophrenia or how that works, but she knew enough that everything she did was wrong because she lied to everybody until they found the bodies. If she was really completely insane, she would be telling us, no, you don't understand because I'm a god. Like, she would say it. And there are people who are truly out of their mind. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's the stuff we're not allowed to hear. Maybe she did say all that kind of crazy crap, but it's, protected by the healthcare laws. I don't know. All I know is that I don't like that we're not going to be able to see in court, but we will be able to hear through audio. Take that for what it's worth. It'll be more difficult, but it still should be interesting to find out what this story is. All right. And poor Colby, at the end of that, I mean, we know he's had other troubles that have been dropped, so I'm not going to bring them up. But I think, speaking of the Eliza Fletcher case and that Cleo kid, and I just think Colby didn't have a lot of chance being raised by Lori. I don't think she was the perfect mom. I think she wanted people to think she was perfect, and she said things that sounded right, but in her actions, getting into marriages, getting out of marriages, saying that the men were always doing things, like don't trust men. She didn't trust anybody. She jumped around from relationship to relationship. That's not good for kids. It's really bad for kids. So I feel sorry for Colby, and now he doesn't have, I don't know, this is all very horrible. That's all I have to say about that. Okay. We have two more things to talk about. Raise a drink. We're going to talk about, so that is all, that has been in our court updates, like trying to get to trial. Now we have something that's actually in trial. The Pike County Massacre trial, that is in the state I love, Ohio. It's in southern Ohio, almost to near Kentucky, but there's the Ohio River is between there, so you can't say it's like near Kentucky because the Ohio River is huge right there. But it's very southern. Our friends at Pretty Lies and Alibis mentioned that some of the people on the witness stand sounded similar to their friends in South Cagle. Like, oh, well, he sounded like he said certain things. He sounded southern and like a gentleman. And I will tell you, southern Ohio is southern. It really is. And I've often said that this case is like the Hatfields and McCoys, and but with the tragedy of Romeo and Juliet, except, Romeo's family goes ahead and kills all the Capulets. That's kind of how I see this as the analogy. So the last time we spoke about this, it had just been days 1, 2, and 3, and we just had opening statements by each side, going through basically in great detail the prosecution did about what went down the days of the murders. Now in days 5 and 6, they had a lot of discussions about Ohio's so there was Ohio's rule of evidence is that you don't have to show somebody who's a witness unless they want to be shown. So that was kind of hard because some people, including police officers who were witnesses, did not want to be taped. They still were auditorily recorded. And the prosecution had cops, CBI, the criminal investigation the BCI, I'm sorry, they came and witnessed and talked about all the scenes, and they talked about how they entered the scene, how it was protected, what they did with the scene, what they saw. The coroner, one of the interesting things that they did discuss was that they found, when they first went there, they found that there were cameras and a DVR around where the grow house was, on the Rodney. They had like a small grow house, marijuana farm, and those were all missing. And they tried to get DNA from the wires, and they couldn't. So, the defense is going to make like, oh, well, there's no DNA. Let's not forget, we have two people one who was the shooter, Jake, who is a witness for the prosecution, a state witness, and then the mom who helped plan it. So I'm not sure what the defense is always going with here when they've made like a big deal out of, oh, so drugs were involved. I mean, but we already know we're going to hear from Jake. Unless he wants to be, I guess, in jail forever and up for the death penalty himself. But he has made a deal that he has to go against and be a witness for the state against his brother. And if so, then he won't get the death penalty, and neither will they. We'll see if he holds up his end of the bargain. And then, so days 5 and 6 were more about the witnesses to the scene. And days 7 and 8 were starting the autopsy. Day 9, they cut it short because somebody was sick. One of the, I believe, jurors wasn't feeling well. So if you want to specifically hear a very thorough but shortened version of what's going on, I would go to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Gigi is the host on that YouTube channel, and she is covering this completely. She did a series, I don't know if it was like 5 or 6 or if it was only 3 or 4. She did a series discussing the Pike County murders. There is a Pike County Massacre podcast that will give you like every detail. But if you just want to catch up with who's who and what's what, I would go to Pretty Lies and Alibis. I will let you know more about how the trial goes on. It's supposed to be 3 weeks. So we're, moving into our second week here. It's gruesome. Oh, one of the interesting things is the judge does not allow any pictures shown of bodies or blood. Isn't that interesting? And that's kind of what all they're talking about. So it's kind of weird that you don't really see it. But anyways, I think they see it in court. He doesn't want that transmitted out to the world. And our last case. Okay, so we all know, or excuse me, I have one more after this, but Sherry Papini. If you remember, Sherry Papini was the Gone Girl in Oregon, Redding, Washington? I think it was Oregon. Regardless of what specific state she was in, she had this whole big thing. She ran away. She had 2 small kids at home. She made it look like she was on a jog and somebody grabbed her. I think her husband really thought that. They found her ear pods at the end of this, like their long driveway. Where did she go? The kids hadn't been picked up at school. She was gone for 31 days. And she was found right before Thanksgiving, running around chained up. She had been branded. Her hair had been cut off. And she said she was held by these 2 Latino women. And she feared for her life. She thought she was going to be trafficked. She had this whole big story. Story being the operative word. No, she was not. She apparently ran to an ex-boyfriend, was hiding out of his house. And then when she was all over the news, she decided to, oh my gosh, I have to show back up home, and made up a story. And he went out and got and branded her with a Hobby Lobby like branding kit, like what you would do on leather. And she was in it to win it. She did commit to the role. But no, she was caught because of all the money spent. Because she lied over and over and over again to the FBI. And let me just tell you, do not lie to the law enforcement. Do not lie to the FBI. It is a federal crime. She's going to do 18 months, people. Everybody was saying 8 months. No, 18 months. She's also divorced. I don't think she sees her kids that often. She ruined her whole life. Why? I don't know. She wanted a little, I don't know, she wanted drama in her life. It's odd. She probably has some issue. She needs psychological help, I am sure. All right, and I had, where did I put it? I'm looking for my celebrity case. Because our very last case, what did I do with it? Oh no. I'm sorry, true crime, Grapevine fans. I'm having a moment here. Where did I put that? All right, well, I'll just tell you. Okay, so I'll just tell you what happened. So Erica Jane Giraldi, who is on Real Housewives of Bravo. This is our celebrity case. If you're not really interested, that's okay. But it's kind of interesting because celebrities, they're just like us. They get sued. They sometimes go to jail. So the crime she's always been committed, she's being accused of is her husband is a very high, or was, a high-powered attorney he was the lawyer featured in Aaron Brockovich, like people that, like class action suit. And he was famous. And he gave talk, everybody respected him. Apparently, for over a decade, he has been cheating, just like Alec Murdoch, like winning things and then taking that money for himself instead of giving it to the clients that he represented. Instead of giving it to the other law firms that helped him with co-counsel, he would take it. And in the meantime, he funded his lifestyle. He funded Erica's lifestyle. He funded his girlfriend's lifestyle. Oh, his girlfriend, a judge. If you want to talk about somebody who should probably have some legal problems, is a judge who's taking money from a lawyer. I don't know if she did anything on any of his suits, but come on now. Judge. I think she's retired now. Of course, it's convenient that she's retired, and she's like, oh, I'll give back the stuff he gave me. Oh, I bet you will. She was in much more of a better position to know that he was doing something hinky, I would think. But anyways, I don't know what pillow talk was going on there. But Erica Jane was his wife. She is not a lawyer, as we know. She is an entertainer extraordinaire. But as I mentioned at the beginning of this, we have legality versus morality. And a lot of people don't like Erica Jane. They feel like, why is she thinking poor me? Why, she divorced him. He was cheating on her. And we know, everybody said that was a lie. She was making it up so that she could get away with the money. There wasn't any mistress. There was. We know now because she's giving back things. So he did screw around on her, and she had every right, and she said he seemed odd. He seems to have Alzheimer's, so he's committed right now. He is, 83 years old and incompetent, and who knows if that started his downward cycle. I don't know how long you have Alzheimer's before it affects you. I don't know if he decided, like, he knew he had this, and so he was going to live the high life and screw rules because he was going to go down. We don't know. And now we'll never know what was in his brain because he has Alzheimer's. But they were trying to, a number of attorneys, the attorneys that had worked with, somebody came up with this clever thing in law. And that's how law works, where you sue people. And you do come up with like new ways of like, hey, but if this and this, then we can say you did this. So they said somehow it was fraudulent, and that Erica Jane knew what her husband was doing, and by being on the show and making it look like they were rich, she was somehow complicit in this, like a RICO, like a organized crime. And okay, look, I don't know out there how many of you might be married, and many of you, like, it seems like most of my friends, the women hold the purse strings, even if they're not many of them are, awful professionals, but some are just, and not just, some are also the like house manager, housewife, caretaker. The full-time life is in the home and they do the bills. So they know what's going on. But there are some who don't. There are some women, I don't know, they might run a true crime channel, maybe, who aren't so aware all the time of what, it's horrible to say, but not everybody. Maybe you have dyscalculia and you're not good with money, so you trust your partner. And they're the one making all of it, and so you're like, oh, well, I trust you with my life. We have children together, right? Now, Erica Jane Giraldi did not have children with her husband, but they were married for, 18 years. They were married long enough, maybe 20 years. They were married a long time. Long enough for him to like find mistresses and cheat. But yeah, and he was this well-known lawyer. who had all this money. So why would she ask him where it came from? Especially when he seemed to be spending, $300,000 over here, and she obviously didn't watch all the bills, which she said she did. And they're like, I can't believe you have such a strong personality. And you didn't know what was going on in the money? And she's like, no, he made a shit ton of money, and he just he paid the bills. Here's a credit card, use it. It's hard to believe people live like that, but yeah, they do. I know. I'm not the best one with money, and so you trust your spouse. If they're making the money and they say we can spend this, now not everybody's. She was spending crazy amounts of money, but also he was getting multi-million-dollar settlements. So the whole point is he was mismanaging his business. She is not a lawyer. She did not work at the law firm. She didn't even do any of his books, because sometimes wives, they do the books. No, she was not involved at all in his business. So the fact that he appears to be allegedly a horrible criminal, criminally responsible. He crimed a lot. Let's just say, sorry, there's my dyslexia after drinking a glass of not even one mason jar glass, and I already can't say he's criminally responsible. Ew. Sometimes if I just don't think about it, I can say the words. Yeah, so you can't, the thing about legality and immorality, and the thing about the law is, if you make every wife responsible for whatever a husband does at work, imagine that precedent. Why would a wife, imagine how many wives have their own damn jobs. Why would they be responsible for what their husband is doing? And then the husband is responsible for what she's doing at work? Well, why? That's not their job. It's not. So, it would be bad precedent to somehow hold her responsible. So there's been 2 and maybe now a 3rd case where she's been kicked off for being held responsible for his criminality, for being part of a fraud, for taking part in fraud. No, she can't be made part of the fraud of the lawsuits because she's not a lawyer. She wasn't part of the lawyer firm. So ergo, she can't be proven to be part of that fraudulent activity. And that's that, about that. Now, will she be held responsible for all their debts because of the bankruptcy? Yeah, she didn't divorce him in time. They were still married when all this went down. She's gonna have to pay. And that's why they've taken things like her assets, like the earrings. Because they proved, it seems like it was written directly out of, those were purchased directly out of a settlement. It's kind of like the Murdaugh stuff. If you can track it right out, sorry, those aren't yours. You're going to have to, and we'll apply them to whatever. So she's going to owe a lot of money, I think, bankruptcy-wise, because she was married to him. But she's not going to be criminally responsible because you can't, as much as you might not like Erica Jane, as much as if you are a housewife watcher and you don't like her attitude of, screw those victims, I'm a victim too, which she kind of, no offense, she is a victim too. Is she a victim like those other victims? Absolutely not. But, I'm not in her shoes. I don't know. I'm sure she feels like her whole like she had a life for 20 years. She put up with crap for 20 years. She was married to this guy. She thought, and then, and it didn't turn out that way. And now she's left holding the bag because he's crazy. He's got Alzheimer's, and she's got all his debt, and he was a criminal. And she didn't know he was criming. So, again, precedent-wise, it makes sense because we can't hold spouses for what their spouse did at their job, that they weren't involved. If they're not at that job, they have nothing to do with that job, they can't be considered, unless you had some specific knowledge that they were like, oh, you're doing this at work, well then let me, unless they have that direct tie through writing or text messages or something, you can't assume. Sorry. And you can't set that precedent. Well, she must have known. Well, that's not how the system works. So it's kind of, I mean, the one widows, as they say on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, the widows and children of the airline crash, I believe, have been taken care of, as well as I think one other one. There are a ton of other creditors and other people coming out of the woodwork. Again, somehow because Erica Jane is on Bravo, they think she's going to be responsible for Tom's mishandling. No. She's going to be, you know, there's bankruptcy stuff she'll have to deal with, but she's not going to be, she's not part of a fraud as much as they'd like her to be. I mean, and you know, you don't have to like her to know that you can't make spouses part of a person's thing. And that's just my opinion. Just my opinion. All right, so that was our 29th episode. Go grab yourself, if you like, a little Seagram's Spiked Crisp Green Apple, 8% alcohol. One is all you need. I haven't even drank half of it. If you're lightweight like me, that's you're good. All right. It's September 25th, so the next time I see you, maybe it'll be October, and I'll have to do pumpkin October-themed drinks. If you have any October-themed drink that you think might go pair well with the next episode, go ahead and leave it in the comments. And if you could, please hit that like button. Please hit the subscribe. We're almost to 100 subscribers. Yay! Which is pretty good for a new channel that I still haven't figured out how to make pictures. Once I can do that, we're going to be rocking and rolling. All right, so I'll see you next week. True Crime Grapevine fans, be safe. All right? Hey, True Crime Grapevine fans, I forgot to tell you one thing. In the Kiely Rodni case, you must go to Duty Ron. He is a retired police officer, and he has this co-host, Ed Wallace, and then together, they're both retired New York police detectives, but Ed Wallace is a CSI guy, basically, and he had experience with water retrievals of cars in New York City, but they also have been talking with two experts in data retrieval from cars, Mr. Tom that they talked to, and he knew about how you can retrieve things from the entertainment center, if you didn't know that, and also just from the, it was the entertainment center and just like whatever the car's black box is, like where it goes, how fast it's going, and those are even in older cars. But in newer cars that have like the little window that you can hook up your Bluetooth to and everything, there's a lot of data, and even if the car gets submerged, you can still get some of that data. So that is something that was very good at listening. And then there was another expert that they had also about retrieving, another expert about retrieving data. So please, if you, hopefully I can edit this into the Kiely Rodni case at the end of it, but besides just talking about all the suppositions about what might happen, I think another thing to understand is that they are looking for all this data from the car, and from her laptop. That was the other person who was talking about retrieval from computers. And so that will take some time. So while we have to wait until November to hear what law enforcement says about if this was an accident or not, if they are looking at any suspects or not, I just wanted to direct you towards a channel that was giving information that you can trust and is helpful in a purely, like an informational way. I think that helps us all understand all crimes a little bit better. Anyways, so please go to Duty Ron. He's really a good soul. He respects the victims and their families, and all of his his co-host Ed Wallace, and then he has Barbara Butcher, who was a New York City death investigator, and all these other experts that he has. He really gets the people that we should all be listening to, not just the juicy, like, oh my gosh, can you believe it, people, but like, you know, it might not seem exciting to hear about data retrieval and exactly how they find out things. I think it's fascinating. You know, it's not the paranoia, it's not the, oh my gosh, who did it, who done it, kind of excitement, chatter. But I really think that if you like the way I talk about crimes, I think I try to be a little bit responsible and hopefully empathetic. You will really like Duty Ron and Ed Wallace. At Duty Ron channel, he's at Duty Ron on Twitter, but he is also Duty Ron channel on YouTube. And lastly, a big thanks to Big E. He is the Twitter account, docket, at Chasing Paper 89, has all the filings first. He is a really great follow on Twitter. Thank you, Big E. You've always got the goods. All right, guys, that's it. We're putting episode 29 in the can. I will see you in October next week. Have a great fall. Bye.